what led you to writing the book, Polygamist Papers?
Okay, well, basically, I was studying the Bible one day. I was in Torah, and I realized from a legal perspective, Yahweh regulated polygyny, and there was no talk of it being sinful. That made me scratch my head a few times. And I said, you know, I've been taught by pastors and by people in general that this was a sin. But why is Yahweh regulating sin? So I started studying it biblically. I mean, I spent a long time studying polygyny from a biblical perspective. And then I spread out and I began studying polygyny from an African perspective. And how it was practiced on the continent and what it was used for in the past. It kept leading me around the world, man, and I kept studying polygyny everywhere. I studied it from a Japanese perspective, Chinese, India. I mean, I basically studied polygyny from a worldwide, cross-cultural perspective, and I saw that a lot of authors had written about polygyny, and the more I studied, the more skilled I became at teaching it. I didn't see any books showing someone how to engage in polygyny in a modern context and how to wrap the theory around application, or rather wrap application around theory. You know, I heard people talking about it, and I saw a lot of men, especially among these so-called conscious crowds, they were sleeping around with a lot of women and calling it polygyny. And I'm like, well, you know, that's not polygyny from what I've seen. And I just kept going, man. I mean, the more I taught, the more people came into my circle, wanted to talk about it. So eventually, me and Brother Che Nazareth, who is not only writing one of the forwards to my larger volume on polygyny called Blood and Kindred Volume 2, Economic Warfare Strategy for Polygynous Families, but he's also the author of the book they didn't want you to read. But he and I recorded 4 10-minute videos on polygyny, and we posted them on YouTube 2 at a time. And went from YouTube and I transferred them to Facebook, and I mean, I had 1,000 responses literally between the comments and my inbox messages and chat easily within 2 weeks for the first 2 videos. And I was spending 8 hours a day, several days a week, talking about polygyny, answering questions, and people were like, you know what, you should write a book about it, because you seem very knowledgeable about it. And a lot of people came from the Muslim faith. They were polygynous themselves at that time, and they were even asking my advice, and they knew I wasn't married at the time. I mean, it was a very, very interesting time, because I was really new to teaching it on that level, because I couldn't get up from the computer without getting messages. And I would come back to the computer, and it was just bananas. And it just turned into a more serious project, because initially I just wanted to write maybe a 20-page pamphlet in Microsoft Word form and just email it to people, you know? And the more I wrote, the more I saw it. I was like, man, this is going to become like a 20 or 30 chapter book. And I ended up living with several polygynous families, and women started to approach me for polygynous marriage. It was all surreal, because all this stuff was happening at once. And I just took it from there, man, and it ended up, I mean, at this point, I've got about 12,000 hours, starting from 2004.